We've got to clean up an injustice. A legal rule that allows claims made by anonymous people to destroy the lives of innocent men and no consequences. Actor John Jarratt is just the latest example. 2 weeks ago, a jury found that Jarratt, the star of Wolf Creek, found him not guilty of raping a woman at his home more than 40 years ago. Now, that woman, whose name is still suppressed, had been living at the time with Jarratt and his wife. And Jarratt admits, yes, they had sex, but it was consensual, and some years later he confessed that to his wife. As for the alleged victim, she did not go to the police. She said nothing at the time because she didn't want to damage Jarratt's marriage. But then, 40 years on, we got the Me Too movement, with women, some of them famous, many in the American film industry, accusing powerful men of having raped them years before. Producer Harvey Weinstein is one of those men, although he denies raping anyone. Now, that Me Too movement took off in Australia as well. It was a big media event. In fact, former TV presenter Tracy Spicer 2 years ago got lots of publicity after announcing that she was taking down names and complaints.
We've got a list of about 30 to 40 offenders so far, but we're going to target the top 2 or 3. For too long, these rumours have been going around the Australian television and entertainment industry. Goodness me, it's like the Harvey Weinstein situation.
Jarratt's accuser got in touch with Spicer, who later told journalists she had advised the woman to go to police and lay charges. Spicer called her courageous. But the jury, it found the woman's allegations were not established, not beyond reasonable doubt. So Jarratt is an innocent man. Except, of course, Jarratt is also a much poorer one. He had to pay a lot to defend himself. And he says that in the meantime, acting jobs dried up, certainly after those allegations against him became public. And is also an angry man, angry that he was publicly shamed, despite being innocent, while his accuser, even today, cannot be named.
I happen to be well known, which makes it a million times worse. The person who is the perpetrator of an evil lie walks away scot-free with a suppression order.
Now, Jarratt is suggesting that both the accused and the accuser should be anonymous while we're talking about rape, until something's proven, because just the allegation alone, the shocking damage that does to an innocent man. Now, I'm not quite sure myself whether his suggestion is the right one. I mean, once a man, or indeed a woman, has been accused of rape, maybe other victims will be inspired to come forward and help to prove it. Maybe, as we're seeing in the astonishing Jeffrey Epstein scandal playing out right now in the US, I'll talk about that one later in the show, maybe going public is the only way that victims can get the justice system to finally take action against a powerful offender who's been protected. But then again, will that public naming of an alleged offender lead to a witch hunt, a Me Too lynch mob? There are, in fact, many double standards here, and nothing is really clear. I'm going to illustrate that with 2 very different cases. Cardinal George Pell was accused of rape, again, that occurred allegedly years ago, and by a man whose identity remains secret and whose evidence in court cannot even be read by the public. Now, even before those charges were laid, police publicly announced Pell was being investigated for all sorts of alleged sex crimes. In fact, there was almost a feeding frenzy. One accusation against him seemed to inspire another even wilder one. And in the end, there were about a dozen or more that were found to be false or improbable or impossible to confirm in court. The result was a public hysteria that I thought made it almost impossible for Pell to get a fair hearing. He was convicted, and even now, if his appeal succeeds, he's still going to be demonised for the rest of his life. Now, a contrast. When he was a Labor leader, Bill Shorten was accused of raping a woman nearly 30 years earlier at a youth camp. Now, he denies it. And it seems that every political journalist, me included, decided that allegation was indeed so old and improbable and so damaging that it would not be fair to Shorten to report it until police had at least investigated. And none of us did. You know, it's curious. Unlike with George Pell or John Jarrett, there was a near total media blackout on the Shorten allegations until police concluded they could find no corroborating evidence and Shorten would not be charged. And then Shorten himself went public, so the damage to his reputation as an innocent man was very limited. But plot twist. Now Shorten's accuser has herself dropped her anonymity. She's named herself. She's let her picture be published to draw attention to the fact that she claims she was not given justice. Well, that's her story, and Bill Shorten and the police have another. But the point here is that at least Shorten's accuser, however wrong she may be, has the courage to name herself and take the consequences. Not so the accuser of John Jarrett. So, my suggestion, I think there must be some legal disincentive for people making false allegations that are so damaging. So let the accuser be named afterwards, if what they've claimed is actually disproved in court. Because if an innocent man has been publicly shamed, why not their false accuser?